Today in Texas, it's about 28 degrees and work has gotten canceled. In about an hour, it's supposed to snow. But today I thought I would just hop on here and talk about my Monstera constellation. So I've had a lot of issues with this plant since I've got it. I ended up purchasing it from a local plant shop in my area, and when I got it, it looked great and it was time to repot. So I asked the local shop what they used for like their soil, and they told me cocoa chips. So I went out and I bought some cocoa chips and I repotted it. But I've never used cocoa chips before, so I wasn't really familiar with that medium, and it ended up rotting pretty bad. So then I decided to repot it. I cleaned it with hydrogen peroxide and it was all right for a little while, but then I noticed that the soil wasn't drying out very well, so I repotted it again, and I probably repotted this plant about 5 times. And it got to a point where it was pretty stable. Like the lowest leaf had some yellowing on it, but it was staying like consistent. It wasn't getting more yellow. So it was like that for about 6 months. And then I noticed that the leaves were starting to yellow more, and I ended up having to chop off the lowest leaf. Then I checked the roots, and the roots were pretty mushy. So I was like, oh man, it's got root rot again. And this time I just decided that the resort I was going to do was just going to be chop and propagate it. So I chose 2 different methods. I chose perlite and water. I was a little bit nervous because I've never done perlite propagation before, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And water, I was nervous about that because if it's rotting, I don't know how water would work with that. I also wasn't sure if propagating would even work because I didn't realize, but I guess root rot, it rots the roots, which inhibits the plant from getting nutrients, so it kind of affects the inside of the plant as well. So when I did chop it, I noticed that the stalk was pretty woody, so it didn't seem like it's getting the moisture that it needed. So I ended up taking 3 chops. The first chop at the bottom, the base, it was really woody, so that one wasn't going to work anyways. The second option that I chose was this perlite method. And this one I had the highest hopes for. This was the middle cutting. And usually the top cuttings I feel like don't do the best, but the middle one does better. It has that little branch come off a lot quicker. But as you can see, this one does not look like it's doing well. Like, it is pretty yellow. And when I look at the base, it has like some pink. Let me see, try and get it. You see the pink in there? So it doesn't look very good. So I'm not sure. The other one I chose was water, and it's just in this little container I had with some foil so that my cats don't get into it. But these leaves still look pretty good. And I just checked this morning. There's no roots, but the base of the cutting doesn't seem to be rotting. Maybe a little black, but sometimes that just happens, like oxidation. But it doesn't look like it's rotting, or if it is, it's not too bad. So hopefully this one will work out. The plants have only been in there for about 1 week, so I'll do an update a little bit later to see. I actually started recording this video earlier this week, and then I just got busy. But I decided to take the plant that was propagated in perlite and switch it to water to maybe save it from rotting. So I put it in water, and I used a sharp knife to cut off the bottom where it was kind of black. And I ended up chopping the leaf that was yellow so it would have more energy focused at the roots. Right now, I mean, it looks okay. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to look like, but there's like a little dot on that chopped aerial root, and I'm thinking that might be where a root's gonna come from. I googled online how long it takes for a Monstera to start to grow roots, and it said it could literally take months. So I'll keep y'all updated. This was a plant that I was super excited to get, and I still really love it. The leaves are so pretty, but I feel like lately I've just been having an issue, especially with my monsteras and them having root rot. Even my big one that I chopped and propagated, that I have a video I'll link in here, it's giving me root rot issues again. And so I just repotted that. And I don't really like to have to do all that repotting in the winter because I don't want to put it into shock. But when I repotted my big one, it was pretty bad. I did it like 2 days ago, and I'll update you on that in a following video. But I think I'm learning a lesson that like I just can't be too obsessed with things going wrong with my plants because there's a lot of things that's outside of my control, either pest or somewhat you can control root rot. I mean, even waterings and all of that. The Thai is very prone to root rot, and a lot of it is because I decided to experiment with different mediums that I didn't know how to use, so it stayed wet for too long. It makes me a little discouraged because then I'm like, man, I should just stick to the old reliable. But I think it's good to experiment because if you don't, you never know what might be even better than what you're using right now. And so if this Monstera in water roots really well, what I want to do is maybe transfer it to leca. I've never done anything like leca or pon, and I feel like that would be a fun experiment. I think for 2024, some of my plant goals would be just to have fun with my plants and not be so obsessed on like they have to look perfect and oh, what happens if they die? But just to have fun experimenting and seeing the different changes as the seasons go by and getting some new plants. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.